It's situated on the Murrumbidgee River and it's just at the foothills of Mount Tennant. So here in Tharwa, one of the dominating features as well as the river is Mount Tennant, which you can see directly behind me. Mount Tennant was named after a bushranger. Now, on our Canberra Guided Tours, one of the places we regularly visit is Mount Ainslie. Now, Mount Ainslie was named after a policeman who, back in the 1800s, arrested Tennant as a bushranger, sent him off to Sydney, and he was executed. Mount Ainslie was commemorated by having a mountain in Canberra named after him, a mountain that we visit and use as a lookout on many of our tours. And Tennant was commemorated out here in the countryside in a place where if you're standing on the top of Mount Ainslie, Ainslie can keep an eye on Tennant even to this day. So Mount Tennant can be seen from the top of Mount Ainslie. There's a bit of a rumour around that Tennant hid a stash of jewellery and gold and things on the mountain somewhere, and one day someone will find it and become an instant millionaire. I don't know about that story, but it's part of the mystery of Mount Tennant here in the outskirts of Canberra at Tharwa. Tharwa is a little village about 30 k's south of the main part of Canberra. It's situated on the Murrumbidgee River, which you can see behind me, and it's just at the foothills of Mount Tennant. The village of Tharwa has about 80 people, and it was declared in 1862, so it predates the Declaration of Canberra by more than 50 years. It's the oldest village within the area that became the ACT back in 1912. And as such, it's had a long history here on the edge of the river. One of the famous historical characters of this area was William Farrer. And William Farrer, at the turn of last century, was the man who developed the form of wheat which was rust resistant, which really contributed to the huge expansion in Australia's wheat production in the 1900s through to 1950s. And that research was done by William Farrer on a property called Lambrig, just adjacent to Tharwa. Now, one of the features of Tharwa, of course, is this magnificent bridge behind me, which was built across the Murrumbidgee River 1896. And it meant that people could safely cross the river. And it's a fabulous construction. Back in the early 2000s, it was closed for a couple of years because they had to rebuild parts of the bridge because it was getting old. But it's now a beautiful bridge that's in full use by the traffic travelling from Tharwa into Canberra. And of course, from Tharwa, you can travel around the tourist route through to Tidbinbilla Nature Reserve, or you can travel up to into the south, up into the hills to Murrumbidgee National Park, and the Murrumbidgee National Park Visitor Centre is only a couple of kilometres from Tharwa. So Tharwa, a great little spot on the edge of the river, nice spot for a picnic, great spot if you're travelling around Canberra to have a rural drive around through Stromlo, Tidbinbilla and Tharwa and back into town. Great little spot here on this beautiful summer's day. I hope you've enjoyed this clip, and look, Canberra Guided Tours runs fantastic trips all around the Canberra district. If you've liked what you've seen, we do stories about people, we do stories about places, we do stories about fascinating buildings. So please come to Canberra. When you're here, check out Canberra Guided Tours, and we'd love to see you along on one of our trips one day. Thank you.